demisexuality doesn't exist is something that I hear more than I would like to. But today we are going to explain why demisexuality does indeed exist so we can debunk this myth, this assumption about demisexuality. So let's get into it. No, I'm going to start off by saying that I understand where people are coming from when they say that demisexuality doesn't exist, but I think they believe that it doesn't exist because they have a misunderstanding about what demisexuality is, or even what asexuality is. So let's explain what it actually is. So, someone who's demisexual is typically someone that only experiences sexual attraction after forming a strong emotional bond. So, demisexuality technically fits under the umbrella term of gray sexuality, which I will get more into in another video. But gray sexuality, in most basic terms, is when you experience really infrequent sexual attraction, it's very low intensity, or it's under specific circumstances. So, like, someone might identify as gray sexual, which is under the umbrella of asexual, because they may still experience sexual attraction, unlike someone who's fully asexual. They just experience it so infrequently that they don't really feel like a fully allosexual person, and that's just someone that experiences sexual attraction like normally. And so where demisexuality comes into that definition is how demisexuality requires specific circumstances for them to even be able to experience sexual attraction. That specific circumstance being forming a close emotional bond with someone. Now, I want to make it really clear that when a demisexual forms an emotional close bond, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be sexually attracted to that person. Say, if they've developed an emotional close bond with their best friend, their platonic best friend, just because they have developed that emotional bond doesn't mean that they're automatically then going to be sexually attracted to them. Although this can kind of be the case for some demisexuals, but it's not the case for everyone. Also, I want to just put in this video as a disclaimer that every asexual person's, therefore demisexual person's experience is going to be different. It's not all going to be the same to each other, just like how every, gay man's experience or bi woman's experiences are going to be like different from each other. Just because they share the same sexuality doesn't mean that their experiences are going to be exactly the same. Now, I think a major reason why a lot of people might think that demisexuality isn't real or isn't valid, or is just like it's normal, is that it's actually generally accepted in society that you're not immediately gonna have sex with a partner or someone. It's quite like normal and accepted in general for you to like meet someone and like develop feelings, and like sex not being like the main thing, although there is a very big dating culture of just seeking people out for sex. But that sort of thing, that does not work for most demisexuals because they're not going to be sexually attracted to a stranger. Now, the difference between someone who's demisexual compared to someone who's allosexual that, takes their time with someone that they're dating and then, has sex later on is the fact that the demisexual simply just does not have sexual attraction from the get-go of the person that they're dating. However, this doesn't mean that they're not attracted to them in other ways. And I think that's where a lot of people get mixed up, is that we can get romantic and sexual attraction meshed up together when really they're actually two separate attractions, or can be for people. So often for a demisexual person, they may have feelings or like a crush on someone, or be like emotionally attracted to them, aesthetically attracted, sensually attracted. If you want to know more about these attractions, please check out my types of attraction video. I will have it linked. But the demisexual might have all these types of attractions, but they just don't have sexual attraction. They haven't unlocked it yet, if you will, and they require a strong emotional bond in whichever way that means for that person in order for that sexual attraction to develop. It's not like how with some allosexual people, they could be initially like physically and sexually and romantically attracted to a partner, someone, and these feelings have always existed, like the sexual attraction has always existed, but for various reasons, for instance, like nerves or how they go about relationships, they're not gonna like have sex with them right away, but that doesn't mean that the sexual attraction like isn't there from the beginning, you know? Like being demisexual doesn't just mean that you're shy or you take a lot of like warming up to a person, which are very valid experiences, but you can be like shy and nervous around a person but still be sexually attracted to them without having formed an emotional bond. Like you can experience those things as an allosexual towards someone you don't know that well or a complete stranger. That is something that demisexuals, they don't really experience that. They may not even experience a sexual attraction to someone that they're quite close to just because they haven't pulled that switch in their brain of being emotionally close to that person and feeling like very safe with that person. I do honestly have a theory on demisexuality and safety, but we will save that for another video. Also, a demisexual is not someone that's like saving themselves. Like, you could say that, oh, demisexuality exists in a lot of like marriages where, like, for instance, like Christian marriages where they don't have sex until after marriage. That is not demisexuality, that's celibacy. There could be someone that is demisexual within that dynamic, but that's not how it works. Like some demisexuals may even want to be sexually attracted to this person that they're dating or interested in because it would make things feel a hell of a lot easier, but they just can't. Like they are not capable of feeling that sexual attraction until they obtain that specific circumstance, being having developed a very close emotional bond. That's not the case, of course, for all demisexuals. Like, some demisexuals may still experience, like, kind of a feeling of disgust when thinking, like, when fantasizing or thinking about having sex with that person, like, theorizing having it. That might be unappealing to them until they reach that, point of emotional closeness. But then there is some other demisexuals that might fantasize about it and it does really appeal to them, but when it comes to the actual attraction towards that person, they don't experience it despite them wanting to. That's another really big like difference between demisexuality and just like an allosexual that wants to take their time leading up to something that's so physically intimate. Also, I just want to say that, like, nothing is preventing a demisexual person to have sex with their partner other than the lack of sexual attraction. Like, it's just more likely that the demisexual is going to refrain from having sex with a person because they're not sexually attracted to that person. However, like, you are still validly a demisexual if you decide to have sex with a partner that you actually haven't yet developed sexual feelings for. As I have said in other videos, attraction is a feeling, not an action. So attraction does not equal action, and action does not equal attraction. But the feeling of attraction often activates the need to act. And in this case, demisexuals do not have that feeling in order to act. They might not have much reason to act. However, there are always, other reasons why they might choose to have sex with a partner that they're not yet attracted to. I get into this a little bit in my asexual video, but yeah, like, that exists, okay? Going back to the differences of how an allosexual versus a demisexual experiences things is, for instance, many, not all, but many allosexuals, may find themselves at a club or something of that sort and become sexually attracted to like a stranger in the crowd just from like before even having talked to them, like just from seeing them. That demisexuals incapable of feeling. They cannot feel the sexual attraction and drive to go like interact with that person because of the sexual attraction. They can, however, experience, aesthetic attraction or just like intrigue in that person that would make them want to go up and talk to them or engage with them in some way, but they're not feeling the sexual attraction. An allosexual does have that ability to, but they might not actually, want to go home and sleep with that person, even though they experience that sexual attraction. I've even heard of people being like, I really hate that person, but I can't help but be sexually attracted to them. Like, that is absolutely something that exists, and I think that often goes missed in, like, understanding this concept. Like, just because you're sexually attracted to someone doesn't mean you're gonna do something about it, or means that you genuinely want to, like, seek out, like, a sexual time with them, and that same goes for, even though you don't have sexual attraction towards a person, doesn't mean that you don't have, like, any reason at all to pursue sex with them or, like, some kind of physical intimacy with them, because you may want that sex for other reasons. Like, for instance, like emotional connection, or like you enjoy the sensation of sex itself without actually having to be attracted to people, like sexually attracted to people. Again, go refer to my asexual video if you're kind of confused here. I go into it more in depth over there. Now, you may have reached this point in the video and been like, okay, I understand that demisexuality is different than a lot of normal allosexual situations, but like, how is demisexual different than just asexual? So I think, as I mentioned early on in the video, demisexuality fits under gray sexuality, which fits under the ace umbrella, and that's just essentially like the spectrum of the ace experience and the many different nuances that people experience lack of attraction. So yeah, like, a demi person can say that they're ace, which is just shorthand for asexuality, or say that they're asexual, but they might not actually share the fact that they're, like, demisexual to anyone or everyone. Like, saying that you're ace, but you mean you're demi-ace is not incorrect. It's like demi is kind of just like a subcategory of asexuality. And then gray sexuality is as well a subcategory within aceness, but like gray sexuality is like the branch of asexuality where there is the potential for sexual attraction to occur, but it's like extremely rare that you may still identify with the ace identity, because you do feel like you do not fit into the average, like, allosexual experience. It's actually a pretty common thing within the ace community and even within the queer community to actually ostracize and, like, uninclude demisexuals, even asexuals, because a lot of the time, you know, you don't actually have to be, like, gay or, like, bi or anything in order to identify as demisexual. So you could, identify as a hetero demisexual. So, like, you are only able to feel a sexual attraction towards the opposite sex. Because, like, asexuality is not so talking about the genders, types of people that you're attracted to. It's just talking about more so, like, the sensation of feeling sexual attraction. So it's a little bit different than just, like, your average queer label, like saying that, oh, I'm bi, or like I'm gay or whatever. Yeah, it can be a little bit confusing, but there are, like, straight people that can identify with demisexuality or aceness, and I think that, causes a lot of backlash from the queer community, and, I do understand why, because, we don't want the straights to overtake, like, our fucking community. Like, this is ours. This is, like, straight pride, like that really stupid flag for straight people. Boring ass flag, too, by the way. Like, I think that's where kind of the unwillingness to allow demisexuals and ace people that identify more as being, like, heteronormative fit in. Like, I understand, but honestly, I feel like it really comes down to each individual and whether they feel that they belong more within the queer community or if they fit in more with what is normative, like being more heteronormative. It's really up to the individual. The LGBTQ plus community is meant to be like a place of safety and comfort and feeling like you belong. And so if you feel like you don't belong or don't fit in or feel like you have a very different experience within the allosexual heteronormative heterosexual narrative, then yes, please like identify as being within the queer community if you think that makes sense to you, you know? But yeah, a lot of people that, you know, could be demi, they resonate a lot, like very heavily with straight culture and stuff like that and have really no issues with it. So, of course, like I don't want to force those people into the queer community or like tell the queer people like nah they belong in the queer community even though they're like hella straight, you know, like they don't have to be included in that if they don't want to, if they have no interest in it, or if they are perfectly happy just existing the way that they are. Asexuality is already such a misunderstood sexuality, and so of course when there's subgenres of that like demisexuality, those are going to be even more misunderstood. So that's, you know, that's kind of why I feel these kind of assumptions towards demisexuals and asexuals happen, is just because it is very nuanced. It's very like complicated both for the asexual person and for people observing the asexual people. So like yeah, it can be confusing, but just because it's confusing does not make it any less valid or any less real. Your experience is fucking real. Also, like, to be honest, I feel like there's a lot more demisexuals out there than we realize, and a lot more people could be demisexual without realizing it. Same goes for like ace people in general. I think, you know, it's hard to know that you are ace or like on the ace spectrum because our society is so sex focused that like of course you're not gonna fucking realize because there's zero representation and a lot of people don't know what it is, you know, you don't know like how it is that you are different and you just think that there's something wrong with you because you don't fit into this. So it's like honestly I think there's a lot more people that are demi because like the amount of people that I've seen online or like met in person where they like say to me or to whoever and they're like, yeah, I've only really been attracted to like my spouse, like that's the only person like I would ever be with, like that's giving very much demisexual. The fact that like the only person that they've ever had sex with or have only ever wanted to have sex with is the person they have an insanely close emotional bond with, you know? Like, honestly, I think why we don't, or why a lot of us don't believe demisexuality exists is because it's already kind of incorporated into our, like, kind of, into, like, the heteronormative world. Because it was, like, you know, back then and still kind of now, it's like no sex before marriage, then only sex with that one person for the rest of your life. Like, that very much could be the experience for many demisexual people where they only have sexual attraction and experience sexual attraction towards like one or maybe like a couple or few people in their entire lifetime. And that a lot of the time is the expectation within marriages, within our society. So it makes sense to me why people are like, demisexually, it doesn't exist. Like, that's just normal. But it's different. Anyways, I hope this all made somewhat sense. Honestly, this is by no means a perfect video explaining demisexuality, but it is a video explaining demisexuality, and I feel like we are really lacking that on YouTube and online and just like resources. You have to dig. You really have to dig in order to find information regarding demisexuality and just debunking why so many people seem to think it doesn't really exist or it's just like a silly like sub genre of a sexuality, etc. So yeah, I hope you took something from this. I hope you learned something. I hope at least your perspective has widened somehow through me talking about this. I really hope I was coherent in some way. And yeah, I just love to educate people about this thing because, you know, I am also on the ace spectrum. I very possibly could be demi, but I actually can't confidently say that because I have never experienced sexual attraction. So, you know, like this, yeah, could come from more of a biased perspective because I am on the ace spectrum, but also like I'm able to better explain it because I am ace in some capacity. So, if you have any comments or things to add to this conversation, or even like questions, even like hyper specific questions to your life, pop them in the comments because I genuinely would love to talk to you or explain things to you, or just like I just want to be the ace mama of the internet that like makes you feel understood and allows you clarification. So like please feel free. Please like the video if you like got through the end and like enjoyed it or got something out of it. Super appreciate that. But yeah, I will see you in the next video, I guess. And if you're interested in my other Ace and Arrow content, I have a little playlist here somewhere that you can check out because I have a couple other videos out. But yeah, that's everything for today. Love you so much and see you next time. Bye.